And welcome back to Bunters Yard. And a phrase I'm sure you wouldn't have heard me ever say before is today something just a little bit different. So this is an American boxcar. I think it's by a company called Walthers, and I just wanted to do one of these for quite a while, and I've done one side you would have seen as it's turned around, just to kind of practice, try a few things out. So I'm going to do this side, and this is the one we're going to film today. And the reason I wanted to do this was because lots of the early videos that I watched, and even now, for weathering, are by American and Canadians. And there's a guy that I watch called JC's Riptrack. His name is John, and there's the name of his YouTube channel there, and I'll put a link down below. So if you're into weathering any sort of railway stock, then do give him a look. He's full of inspiration, award-winning, really nice guy, full of information. Anyway, let's crack on. So the first thing I'm going to do is just to mask off a couple of panels on this one, and we're just going to sort of repaint them just to make it look as if they've been repaired really shoddily. In hindsight, probably what I would have done, although I was a bit over keen to start practicing on the other side, maybe just should have taken a sanding block to the livery to sort of flat that back to make it look a bit older and distressed. But we'll do that next time for sure. Not really, not the end of the world, I don't think. Now, while you're watching the back of my hand do this, and everything's out of focus, there's just another channel I want to sort of give a shout out to. Again, another American channel, and it's a chap called Dagryffyn, and his YouTube channel is called dagryffyn Hobby, and he does lots of mainly O gauge, but he does lots of unboxing and repairs to logos and so on. And it's just a little bit different to what we get to see here in the UK. So obviously bigger stuff, being O gauge especially. But he has some interesting things on there, and it's just like I say, it's worth seeing. It's a nice bit of inspiration as well. If you're into railways, then you're going to be into that sort of thing. So the link again for him is down the bottom there. He's on YouTube as well, so do give him a little follow, and maybe leave a message just to say that you found his details on this video from Bunters Yard. And it's nice when when you get a new subscriber coming from another channel. It's always a good thing. Anyway, so look, we've masked off a couple of areas there, and I'm just going to put the just the bigger masking tape over there, and we're going to spray this in a colour which is different to the panel, just to make it show up. So in this case, I've used vallejo flat yellow and just plain white, just to mix it down to make it look as if it's been painted the wrong colour, or it's faded differently to the original paintwork. You can use any colour you like. Doesn't have to be even the same. It can be blue, or maybe like a primer colour. So that would work. So once that's dry, we'll take this off, and it's difficult to see from this view, but there's lots of rivet lines going up the all over the boxcar. And one of the issues with that is that sometimes the tape doesn't stick particularly well. When you can see there's one there. There's so the paint sort of bleeds through, but we can clean that off, I hope. And we're going to use airbrush cleaner on a brush, just very lightly, and we can just wick away the end there. Now just don't put too much on the brush, because if you do, it will soak into the paint you've just done. And if you watch this very carefully, just on the right hand side, there's a little piece starting to blow there, so where the paint's gonna it's gone all soft. But anyway, so we can patch that up. We don't need to patch it. We can, if we wanted to make a feature of it, and maybe just put some rust around it, make a ring, and then make it like a scab or something like that. But I decided to patch it up as I still had the original paint in the airbrush, and just very lightly just dabbing over that, just to go over those marks that I've unfortunately created. Okay. Our next thing is to get some oils on there, So we can use oils from the oil brusher range for the rust. There's a couple of colours we're using. This is light rust, and then we're going to use the dark brown as well. So this is already pre-mixed, so we don't need to mix this down with any thinners unless you choose to do that, but I generally don't. But there's our odourless thinners there. So we have a fine brush. All we're going to do is dot on where we want our rust streaks to begin, and we can try and do them in a sort of random pattern. It doesn't look particularly random actually from now to think about it, but there we go. We can add more or take it away. That's a good thing about oils. So we'll add it around the hinges and some of the door locks where it gets some got damaged by people opening and closing that, holding keys and hitting it with whatever. And we'll just add in some more of the rust colour. Now it's not important at this stage to sort of create the streak. We just want where the rust is going to start from. We'll create the streak in a moment. Now I'll just do half of one side. I've just done the other side, but I'm just going to do half to start with. So we need to get a soft flat brush, which we've put in the thinners, we've dampened, and then we've rubbed off as much as we can. And we're just going to gently run it down over that rust patch, over that rust. And then as we drag it down, it gives the impression of the rust streaking. Now it's generally the lighter colour of the rust that will streak down, and then you use a darker one to create that sort of scab, you know, the where the rust originated basically. Now I mentioned this before, but the good thing about using oils is that if you get it wrong, you can just wipe it off. Just use more thinners on a brush, clean the whole thing, it all comes off. As soon as the thinners evaporates, you can then start again. Or if you get one of the streaks, it's just one streak that's wrong, just get a fine brush and you can just clean that one streak up and get it out of the way, and continue. Not something you can do with acrylics or enamels. Not as easily anyway with acrylics, and almost certainly not possible with enamels. So these are really good for that. So the oil brushes are really good. Buy them in a kit, or you can buy them individually. They're not especially expensive, but they last for quite some time for what we're using them for here. So if we want to sort of add to the effect, we'll just put some more on there, or maybe just copy a couple of the sort of rust streaks, so it's a bit bolder. And then the same again with that brush, which is just ever so slightly damp in the odourless thinners. So we've done the other side as well, just sort of skipped ahead. Now some of the rust will come from damage, so we can like draw a line where it's maybe hit against a tree or something like that, a branch maybe, and something that scratched the paintwork, and that's where the rust has begun. So we can look at different patterns on reference images, gives you an idea. So we just draw the little line and very faintly brush it down to create the beginning of the rust streaks there. And then at the bottom on the repair, similar sort of thing. Now for our next stage, we're going to use a darker of the colours of the oil brusher. So this is a dark brown. Just going to put a little bit in the in the palette. And we're just going to put some small dots on. We're not going to really sort of drag these down. They might be slightly larger in some places than others. This is the part where the rust would start from. This is where the damage has occurred, so along these rivet lines are always a good place to start. And we're just going to put a tiny amount on, really. Don't go too heavy with this. And generally won't want to make this run down the bodywork as much as the lighter colour, so really just a small amount there, just to blend it in just a little tiny bit. And it doesn't have to be on every single rust streak. On some it's going to be less visible, if at all visible. Good thing about doing this second colour is that you don't have to work out where you want the rust to be. You've already done that in the first bit. We're just picking out the sort of odd ones that we want to use. So what we are doing here with an acrylic, we've got this is just flat brown. This is a model, a vallejo model colour, and we're dry brushing this. And as you can see, it's just picking up those lines of rivets. So the thing about using silver, which always looks quite nice, but I thought sort of rusty dark colour would be good for these. So we're just brushing it very gently, sort of up and down motion. Try not to go sideways unless you really have to. Some details like that, like the hinges and that door lock, you need to catch it from side to side. The reason I would suggest try not to go side to side is that if you do get any of the paint, if you've got too much paint on your brush or you do leave a mark, it will go side to side, which really wouldn't look natural at all. If you go up and down, at the very worst, if you do get any paint sort of smearing on the bodywork, it will look like it's a run of some sort, and you might get away with that. I'm just going to add a bit onto the ladder. It just catches around the edges, just defines the edges a little bit, just darkens it down, takes away the newness. So for the roof, I have to admit, this was quite a few weeks ago. I did the first side of this, and I've kind of forgotten what I did. So I'm hoping this is going to match when we get to the end. But anyway, I'm just obviously using a brush to paint on our colour, and we're just using a colour called Dirt, which is kind of self-explanatory. So there's lots of sort of nooks and crannies on there, so we want to sort of make a feature of that. So I've just done half for now, and what I'm going to do is just wipe it back. So so a lot of the paint will stay in the grooves, probably a bit more than that, but I might give it another go in a moment. And just the highlight part, I'm just going to just clean back. And we'll come back to that in a second with the second part. But we're going to use again the same dirt in our airbrush this time, and we're going to create some little streaks with our brush, little runs, and it's on very low pressure, this particular one. You can just see the lines and the streaks just forming around those where the rivets are. So I don't want to make this sort of too dirty really, but we need to look worn. So we'll just use it as a very, very lightly, just the pressure's really off with the airbrush. So I'm going to follow the line of the rivets in most of the places, not everywhere. Just to add these lines on, we'll go a bit heavy here and there, so there and there. And we'll do another one a bit later on. And this just gives it a worn, distressed look. Do the same over there. You could also use a really dark grey or even black perhaps for this this part as well, for doing the middle parts of the panel. But I thought the brown looked quite nice. It has to match the other side anyway, because it would look a bit odd otherwise, wouldn't it, I guess. And then we turn the pressure up on the airbrush, and we're just going to give it a general sort of a fade towards the top, so it's darker at the top and it will fade into lightness as we go down the bottom. And then on the end, which is corrugated, again we're just using the dirt colour in our airbrush. Just going to colour that in, and then we'll use our cloth to wipe it back, as if the rain has washed it away and it's got caught in the bits of the corrugations. And then what I did off camera, forgot to film it, my apologies, is that, so I've taken the wheels off the bogies now. These unscrew and you can take them off if it's easier, but I've just painted these in a really, really dark brown, exceptionally dark brown with lots of black in, so it's almost black, and we're using some powders just to add that kind of rust effect. So this is just a dark brown rust powder, and then followed by my new favourite powder, which is this yellow rust. It all comes in a kit. I'll put the link in the description to the rust kit. I've used it quite a few times before. So we're just going to put on this very dark brown rust. Add a bit to the wheels. A lot of the time the wheels are going to be different sort of rust tones to the bogies anyway, because they're made from a different material, so they are going to rust differently. I'm just going to add a bit of the yellow onto that one as well, and the brighter rust as well. And then with our Humbrol Dark Earth, just a line along the bottom, just along the bottom edge where the dirt has sort of splashed up from the track and from the wheels as they've been going along. And also in this in our Dark Earth, we've got a little bit of chrome green oxide, or chrome oxide green, which is looks like a sort of algae, sort of moss type colour. So if you've not used it before, just be careful, don't use too much, really just want a tiny amount and mix it in with the Dark Earth, because it is especially green. You'll see that when you open the bottle, it's really, really green. So just be careful how you use that. And then on the roof, I think we were going to use that on the roof as well. You can see some sort of hint of green in the other side. I think the other side I did that with paint actually, but on this side we're not. We're going to use the chrome oxide green, and we're going to dab that in. So we're using a mixture of the chrome oxide green and the Humbrol Dark Earth, and I'll go over this a few times and try and get the two sides to kind of match a little bit. Obviously, if you're doing your boxcar or your wagon, you'll do the roof in one go, so both sides will be sort of fairly evenly matched, really. This was just a bit of a test piece, and I totally forgot what I've done on the other side. There we go. Not a bad match. Not perfect, but we got there anyway, I think. Now with the powders, just really don't use too much. Just put a bit on the brush, knock most of it off, because especially the Humbrol powders, that they will cover really, really well. So just be careful. You don't want, it's difficult to get off once you've got it on. So I'm using a different colour rust here, just on that centre walkway, just to add some detail to that. I did also, after I think just out of shot, I did dry brush a little bit of silver on. But I didn't go too wild with that. I didn't like the effect as I was doing it, so I kind of stopped. So there we are, back on that corrugated end, and I'm just adding a bit of red rust there, and maybe a dab of yellow in as well, just to add a bit of difference, a bit of texture. That's it, we're pretty much done. So we'll give this a final coat of a matte lacquer after this, and that will just seal everything in nicely, and we're finished. So thanks for watching. Again, as I say, a little bit different, but I hope it was of use, and we'll see you next time on Bunters Yard.